June 26th Village Board meeting. Would you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
This evening, we're starting with trustee Kittredge here. Maher,
Here.
McClafferty,
Here.
Shaughnessy,
Here.
Snagowski,
Here.
Stapleton.
Here.
Okay, thanks, Charlene. Next up, we have the consent agenda, which consists of the following. We have approval of minutes for the Cow meeting on April 17th. We have the minutes for the Village Board meeting on June 12th. We have approval of disbursements, June 13th through June 26th. We have an ordinance O-24-23, amending the fiscal year 2022-23 annual operating budget. We have an ordinance O-25-23, establishing a moratorium for non-retail land uses in the state and 127th economic activity area. Can I please have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Snagowski, seconded by trustee Kittredge to approve the consent agenda. Do we have any questions or comments by the board? Roll call, please.
Trustee Kittredge?
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty?
Yes.
Shaughnessy?
Yes.
Snagowski?
Yes.
Stapleton.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Next up, we have, motion approved, obviously. Next up, we have the mayor's mention. We have a lot of good stuff going on for this coming week. On Tuesday, we start off with our Freedom Days by the Lamont Park District. You can go to Covington North Park for the Movie in the Park, showing Top Gun Maverick starting at 7 p.m. I've seen both of those, so check it out. Good stuff. On Thursday, the Veterans Tribute will be held at 6 p.m. in Legion Park, which again is on Main Street just south of the Metro Station. And on Sunday, June 2nd, head to the free Centennial Pool Park Party held by the Park District from 12 to 6 p.m. And then on July 3rd, my favorite day of the year, we have the Independence Day Extravaganza starting at 4 p.m. with fireworks beginning at 9:30 p.m. or thereabouts. Again, the fireworks are sponsored by the Lamont Park District, the Lamont Township, and the Village of Lamont. So please check out the Lamont Park District's website, lamontparkdistrict.org, for more information, which includes frequently asked questions regarding the July 3rd event. Also, again, on July 3rd at 3 p.m., there will be a special dedication at the Danish Cemetery on 127th Street. Again, that's right in front of Old Quarry. Through a large community effort, there was recently a lot of work done on the grounds in and around the cemetery and at the Monument of the Unknown Soldier. It's looking awesome out there. We appreciate everyone's hard work. And again, please join us at 3 p.m. for that special dedication. Also, this week's Wednesday weekly cruise night is the Ford and Mustang night. It begins at 6 p.m. in downtown Lamont. When I say weekly, just be reminded that due to July 4th, there will be no car show on July 5th, and they'll pick up on the following Wednesday. So again, we wish everyone a happy and healthy July 4th. Hopefully the weather hangs in there with us. And again, everyone enjoy and be safe. All right, so that's the mayor's mention. Next up, we have the clerk's report, Charlene.
Thank you. The first ordinance this evening would be O-26-23, and this is approving the final planned unit development for Marbella Mixed-Use Development located at 225 Canal Street in Lamont.
Okay, need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee McClafferty, seconded by trustee Stapleton. Jason, You taking this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to address some concerns that we heard at the committee of the whole about bringing the final PUD without the parking and park plan that is included at the preliminary PUD. I've had some conversations, obviously, with Attorney Mike Stillman, and if there's other concerns, he's ready to answer them. The first reason was really that the ownership of the property changed in May. The park and parking plan that was in part of the preliminary PUD is now owned by the Village of Lamont. So similar to another PUD where the Park District may own the park and parking. In this instance, the village owns it. We will proceed with that plan. It's up to the trustees to hold staff accountable and yourself accountable to make sure that happens. But we will bring that plan back to the next committee of the whole, whether that's in July or August, for discussion around not just the open space, but also a broader discussion around parking in downtown, since obviously this development has created a lot of concern and interest around parking downtown. Secondly, when will this happen in terms of actually getting the park and parking? A lot of people are excited for that. The UDO does require that that begins when prior to 20% of the final units are completed. So that would be, for this development, around the second floor. We hope to begin much sooner than that, of course, but the UDO does have a requirement for us to begin that development. And lastly, in terms of conformance with the preliminary PUD, we looked at the request of the applicant, those items that were under their control. So the final PUD mentioned things like the number of dwelling units, which hasn't changed, it's still 79, the height of the building, which hasn't changed, the elements of the building, which hasn't changed. And in fact, this final PUD approval, if it is approved tonight, makes those, well, final, which is a good thing for that. We brought it to the PZC, and they recommended 4-0 that to approve the final PUD. Happy to take other questions, or again, Attorney Mike Stillman's here as well.
Any questions or comments?
I have questions, but I was just gonna
Yeah, go ahead,
default to
Dave.
you if you had anything else you wanted to add.
No, go ahead, Dave.
Okay. I have questions around separating the PUD. So I understand what you're saying. We talked a little bit about last week. So I guess what I'm struggling with here is, this isn't a park and parking. This is also a driveway. This also has financial ties to this entire development.
Yeah.
And this is the first time in my 16 years that I've been on the board or in planning and zoning where we've separated a PUD. I don't understand why we're separating this with the fact that my biggest issue is financial ties and the driveway that we're putting in for them, or the street. We don't pull streets out. We don't pull financial ties out of PUDs from a prelim to a final. This, to me, is more than cosmetic changes that's being made. This is a significant change to the development. And I would say, irrelevant of this being voted on today, this isn't halting the development of the building, because the building's under construction. We're not talking about suspending the building. We're talking about why is it that we're pulling out a portion of this final PUD that was approved that has financial ties to the village having to pay for certain things, and the developer is responsible for the park development.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't do that in any other subdivision. Never have I been here in the 16 years where we pulled a park out of a PUD
Yeah. I mean,
or a street.
yeah. I
Well,
would
you
probably
know,
defer, but in my opinion,
Can I jump in?
we have a redevelopment agreement that is not bound to the preliminary or final PUD. In fact, it was approved 2 months after the preliminary PUD. That redevelopment agreement is still binding. It still says that Marbella will pay for the park and parking and drive and other improvements. In terms of removing it, I would guess this is maybe the first time in a PUD that somebody donated this amount of land to the village in terms of an exchange.
We get land donated all the time.
But
Kettering donated, we had 60 acres donated at Copper Ridge, or whatever the current subdivision's called. We had Kettering donated 40, at least 40. I mean, I don't know what it is. They donated 40 acres. We got how many acres being donated at Glenn's? I guess the question really is, like, why are we pulling it out? Like, why aren't we leaving this in here? Why?
Can I jump in here? Trustee Maher, you and I talked earlier just recently, so I've done a little more research on this, and I would point everyone to Chapter 1708 of the Plan Unit Development under our UDO. 1708.030 requires that any PUD be under single ownership. So as Jason is explaining, when the preliminary was done, it did have single ownership. The ownership was Marbella. Now, since then, we've had a land exchange, legislation, and so forth. So now what we have is we have the village of Lamont that owns a parcel and Marbella. So under our own code, under 17.08.030, it says, I just want to repeat, A, the land intended for the PUD shall, not may, shall be under single ownership. Here, we have two owners. So that's why, and when we talked earlier, I said I'd get you some answers. The answer is this. The reason is you can't have a PUD with different parcels of land and different owners. You have to have one. So that's the reason why. But your concern, and I don't want to speak for you, Trustee Maher, is that one of your concerns was, okay, all these other things were approved before. How are we certain and certain that what you can say under the general conditions, Section 3 of the ordinance listed below, it says the general conditions, unless otherwise approved by you, the village board, the subject property shall be developed and maintained in accordance with the village code, meaning when you have a single owner, it has to be a single owner, so we have to follow that. But the redevelopment agreement that was approved as ordinance 0-44-22, your concerns, well-founded, are that, okay, we have all these concerns about parking and everything. How do we know that they're going to follow that? Well, it says right in the ordinance that we have to follow the redevelopment agreement previously, and it's a contract. So the contract, so you were like, your concern is how are we going to know that they're going to do what we agreed, and all the monetary issues, it's right there.
Is there TIF money tied to performance?
Their money is, yeah, I mean,
Well, they don't get,
yeah, they don't get it unless they perform, unless, yeah, so
They have to follow that
they
redevelopment.
have to follow what's in the general conditions. So when we talked, I didn't have the answers, I did some, and I am more than comfortable with the way this has gone. And there are times, most of the times, the PUD, the single ownership remains. It didn't here, and that's why. And we may never see it again in the next 20 years. And I understand you haven't seen it, but that's why it has. And the language is there to back it up, that we hold them accountable.
so is for the single ownership, is that just between the prelim and the final?
Yeah, it's under our UDO. Anytime you do a PUD, it has to be one owner. And
But is that for the prelim or the final?
it's
Or both?
for both.
So when we did the prelim, that included the I&M property that was our property that we hadn't swapped, then that would have been an issue too, right?
I don't view it as an issue because at that time we anticipated that the legislation had been approved. So I don't view that as an issue at that time. But so the open space and parking, your concern was, Trustee Maher, as I recall, is, okay, how do we know that the open space and the parking is going to be done? It's right there based on what, it's in our ordinance, but it's based on a contractual obligation between the developer and the village. And I promise you, we will hold them accountable.
Any other questions, comments? All right, roll call, please.
Okay. Trustee Kittredge?
Yes.
Maher?
No.
McClafferty?
Yes.
Shaughnessy?
Yes.
Snagowski?
Yes.
Stapleton?
Yes.
Okay, motion approved.
The next item this evening is another ordinance, O-27-23. And this is annexing 95.4 acres of property located west of Smith Road in Lamont, Illinois.
Okay, need a motion, please.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Stapleton, seconded by trustee Snagowski to approve the said ordinance. Jason, you
Yes,
wanna
sir.
take this one as well?
Yes. I'll mention both, because there's, clerk introduced the first ordinance annexing 95.4 acres, but this is followed by an ordinance rezoning that same property, the same 95 acres. Obviously, this is about the village annexing unincorporated land that is currently owned by Citgo. We believe it's important to put this under Village of Lamont jurisdiction, not just for the zoning control that second ordinance is going to give us, but also for village services such as public safety. And just took a little bit of notes. I want to make sure to remind folks of the process. Again, how did we get here? Our first meeting was in October 2022, when we held a committee of the whole meeting to discuss these annexations, annexation agreements, rezoning, et cetera. And November 2022 was the public hearing here at the village board meeting, at the regular meeting, on the annexation agreement with Citgo, which was approved. As a reminder, the annexation agreement exceeds the scope of these two properties that are being annexed today, or proposed for annexation. There has been small resident and other group meetings in 2023 for the rezoning, which is the next ordinance on your agenda. That public hearing was held in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission at their first regular meeting in June of 2023. Both ordinances were discussed at the Committee of the Whole last week, Monday in June. The Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval of both ordinances.
Okay, and just, again, to recap, I know we've talked about this at length, about being able to have a say of what goes in west of Smith Road. Again, this is a designated industrial route. It's been expanded to 5 lanes. It's going to continue to be expanded to 5 lanes. Being involved in this, we will be able to have somewhat of a say, and more importantly, to have some fruitful conversations with Cook County in order to keep this traffic off of Smith Road. And this is something that we would not be able to probably have unless this was in our jurisdiction. We've seen this type of development happen to our north. We've seen it happen to our northwest. Unfortunately, we see it all along Main Street in our town that is unincorporated. And we cannot have any jurisdiction over this. We see these, I call them rogue truck parking lots come in. They fill in landfills. They park. We probably have upwards of 1,000 trucks being parked along Main Street right now. And this is very unfortunate. And unfortunate, we have learned the hard way. And so again, this is one of the reasons why we're being involved in this. Working with Citgo also helps us have some sort of collaboration, or at least say in limitations of what goes on in this area. So I know, we have Courtney here is, if there's any questions regarding this. But again, working with Citgo, this has been a collaborated effort. And again, it gives us a say of what goes on. Again, we've heard, we've learned the hard way. And so anyway, I know I'm repeating of what, the several meetings we've had over the last, coming up on probably 9 months. But with that being said, any other questions or comments by the trustees?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just want to add one more point, Mayor. This land contains the park for Bambrick. This also gives us the opportunity to finally police Bambrick appropriately. And I think that's a huge addition to the safety of everyone that's at Bambrick Park, so.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. Any other comments, questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Kittredge,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty,
Yes.
Shaughnessy,
Yes.
Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved.
The next item is also an ordinance. This one would be O-28-23, and this is rezoning the 95.4 acres of property located on west of Smith Road in Lamont, Illinois.
Need a motion, please.
So moved. Second?
Okay, motion by trustee Snagowski, seconded by trustee McClafferty. Anything else to add, Jason?
No, sir.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Kittredge?
Yes.
Maher?
Yes.
McClafferty?
Yes.
Shaughnessy? Snagowski?
Yes.
Stapleton?
Yes.
All right, motion approved.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Charlene. All right. Next up, we have, Mike, anything for the village attorney report?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay. Any board reports? Any staff reports? Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the weekend approaching, well, that's loud. With the weekend approaching, we start getting a lot of calls for fireworks around the 4th of July. Most of these calls, or almost all the calls, are neighbor complaints on that. So I want to remind the folks that it is unlawful to discharge or set off any fireworks in the village unless you have a permit granted by the board. And each year, they estimate that fireworks cause just under 20,000 fires, including over 3,000 structure fires, and 9,100 emergency room visits, which 1/3 of them are under the age of 15. So I don't think we're going to find a better display than the village is going to put on July 3rd. So please come to that. But just be careful and be courteous to your neighbors during the next 5 or 6 days, and let the professionals handle the fireworks.
Thanks, Chief. I second that. It's the best I've seen. So, again, looking forward to that. All right. Anything else, Darshana? You have anything for us? Okay. All right. Do we have any unfinished or new business? All right. Next up, Mike, audience participation.
This is
Why
the,
don't you handle it?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the time of the meeting when, if anyone has any public comment, please raise your hand. The mayor will call for you to speak, but make sure you mention your name, both your last and your first name, because we have to have that for the meeting minutes. Also, just per our rules, it's a 3-minute maximum for any comments this evening.
Yeah. Yeah. Please. We gotta get you on video with audio.
My name is Robert Lang, L-A-N-G. On this annexation that you have of the oil property, I must have missed the meeting or something, but what is the zoning on that 95 acres?
There's 2 parcels involved. I don't know the exact breakdown in terms of acreage, but there's a sort of square-shaped parcel, if you look at the annexation map.
It's about
parcel 1.
40.
What?
I remember it's about 40.
40 acres? It looks like a 40-acre site, yeah. 40 acres of it approximately are currently zoned I3, Will County Industrial. That will be zoned M3, Village Manufacturing 3. And then the remainder of that is presently agriculture and park use, and that will be zoned in the village's new open lands district. So, as Trustee Maher mentioned, a portion of that annexation includes the park, and the park land will be zoned for open lands and park use. So the
I was
use
going to
there
ask
will
if the
change.
park was included in that 95 acres.
A portion, not all of the park, but the portion of the park that is leased by the park district from Citgo is included in that, yes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Robert. And the park, obviously, is going to remain the park.
Yes. Just with Lamont Police.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Okay, all right. All right, well, with that being said, we have no executive session tonight, so we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion by trustee Stapleton, seconded by trustee Snagowski to end here at 6:55. Again, we want everyone to have a wonderful and happy July 4th. Enjoy, be safe, and have a lot of fun. Thanks again, everyone.